Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto is an alpha werewolf in the West. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Jabari the Goat Sage and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1 for a moment just like this. Real talk, stop leaving reviews, I don't read them. Send me a PM. I read those and I get to respond. This was all a gigantic waste of time, team. Naruto Uzumaki stared down at the unconscious form of Sasuke Uchiha. They just finished their second no-holds-barred fight, this time at the Valley of the End. Their fight was brutal, but Naruto stopped holding himself back briefly to render the Uchiha unconscious before he could use more than the first stage of the cursed Hiki Orochimaru gave him. Naruto unfortunately received a fist through the chest before he stopped holding back. The entire village is always kissing your ass and giving you everything you ask for, yet you immediately decide to leave the village the second someone outside of it offers to make you stronger. You're really a selfish jerk. Naruto ranted softly. He gazed at the cursed seal critically. Is this stupid thing the reason why you were trying so hard to give your ass up to a pedophile? He mumbled to himself. He remembered when he accidentally broke a storage scroll. All the contents in the scroll fell out. So, what would happen if I cut the entire seal off, along with a bit of skin around it? He took out a kunai and proceeded to do just that. He tore off a piece of his jacket and wrapped it around the cut-off seal. Now. Let's get this asshole back to Bachan. Hokage's office. Anbu. Get this traitor to a hospital bed, but keep him restrained and keep him under watch. You should go too, Naruto. Tsunade spoke. I want to give my report first. Then I can rest. Naruto refuted. He proceeded to explain all the actions he took, then handed her the cut-off seal. Anbu. Bring this to Art. Tsunade ordered another stationed Anbu. Now, Naruto. You need to go to the hospital. I get that the Kyuubi's chakra heals you, but I'd rather double-check. Yeah, Bachan, I'll go. Naruto replied as he ducked a thrown book and made a tactical retreat to the hospital. Brat. Stop calling me that. Naruto laid back on his hospital bed. The hospital was one of the very few places in the village where he was completely safe from the villagers and some shinobi who wanted to harm him. When he was hurt, he was treated with the same kindness and respect as any other patient. The only people who gave him any grief were the secretaries. As he rested, he reveled in the fact that he kept his promise. He made a promise to Sakura that he'd bring Sasuke back, and he did. He found it really shitty that she'd use his crush on her to manipulate him into a promise, but he kept it nonetheless. He wondered how much longer he should keep up the ruse that he liked her more than just a fellow Konohinin. Maybe he could attend the next Chunin exams and finally stop hiding his strength. His girlfriend is upset that he allows Sakura to hit and insult him constantly, but it's a necessity to keep those in the council from doing anything drastic. There was a knock on his door and in came his sensei. Hey, Kakashi-sensei. Thanks for visiting. Naruto greeted until he saw a serious look in Kakashi's eye. I'm not here for niceties. I'm here to express how disappointed I am in you. The way you treated your teammate was shameful. You are now worse than trash. Kakashi reprimanded. Thoroughly confused and a bit pissed, Naruto spoke up. What the hell are you talking about? You know he was suffering under the influence of the cursed seal, yet you fought him to kill. Kakashi continued. The mission parameters were to bring him back by any means necessary. I could have broke his arms and legs and dragged him back by his duck-ass hair, but I held back severely. By doing so, I've suffered broken bones and a fist through my fucking chest. You should know how that's possible since you killed your own teammate with the same jutsu. Naruto bit out, catching Kakashi off guard by how much venom was in his words. Before Kakashi could even get angered by Naruto's words, a nurse who heard all the commotion came in to kick Kakashi out the hospital. Hours later. Tsunade had just finished checking up on all the shinobi who went to retrieve Sasuke when an Anbu appeared and reported that she was being summoned to the council room. Her, the goddamn Hokage, was being summoned. This has gone long enough. Sensei has gotten weak and lenient in his old age, and this has led to half the council growing bold. No more. As she walked into the room, the clan head stood, as customs dictates. The civilians were still seated and speaking amongst themselves, as were the shinobi advisors. Finally, Tsunade. Now we can. Kaharu began, before she was cut off. Be silent. Tsunade spoke, her voice soaked in killing intent. The room instantly hushed. What am I, Advisor Udatane? Tsunade asked softly, as opposed to her usual loud and brash manner. Confused and a bit on edge, Kaharu answered. Tsunade Senju. That is my name, yes, but what am I? Kaharu swallowed. The goddamn Hokage. Exactly. I am the Hokage. Your Hokage. As well as everyone's in this room. Advisor Midokado. What type of government is Konoha under? Tsunade asked, still in a soft-spoken tone, continuing to put everyone on edge. Amura cleared his throat a bit before speaking. An authoritarian government. A military dictatorship. Good. Who is it that leads Konoha, Advisor Shimura? Danzo, very briefly, tightened his grip on his cane. The Hokage, Tsunade. Suddenly, the entire room brimmed with killing intent. Please repeat yourself, Advisor Shimura. Who is it that leads Konoha? Danzo's grip on his cane tightened again as he struggled underneath the pressure her killing intent imposed in the room. Through gritted teeth, he answered. The Hokage does, Hokage-sama. The pressure dissipated instantly. Correct. Now, why is it that I, the goddamn Hokage, have been summoned as if I were an errant genin? Tsunade queried. We have an urgent matter to discuss, Hokage-sama. Koharu answered. You know what you're supposed to do in that case. You come to me with this matter first, then I decided whether or not the matter is important enough to discuss in a council meeting. That has already infuriated me, but the double dose of disrespect I received entering this room rose my anger to a new level. What do you mean, Hokage-sama? It would be treasonous to blatantly disrespect the Hokage. Hamura stated, almost sounding insulted. Tsunade just stared at him for a moment then turned and in a calmer tone, asked Tsum. Inuzuka Dono. What do you believe I mean when I stated I was disrespected twice? Tsum almost faltered under the alpha's anger, but she mustn't look weak under her gaze. Only us clan heads stood and remained silent when you entered, as per customs. The civilians and advisors were still sitting and speaking. Good. Tsunade responded, then her eyes roamed the civilians and the advisors. Without preamble, they all stood. None of them wanted any part of this new level of fury Tsunade is displaying. Now that she was shown the proper respect, she walked to her seat. Once she sat down, everyone else did. Now, what matter is so important that you ignore proper procedure and gave you the audacity to summon me? Tsunade asked, her tone returning to normal. Seeing as Tsunade was calm again, Koharu spoke. We of the council felt we need to eliminate or remove a threat to Konoha. And what is this threat you speak of? Tsunade asked. There are a lot of threats that Konoha faced, some more immediate than others. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Koharu stated. Once again, Tsunade's voice became frigid. I will remind you that he has a name. If you can't use the name his mother gave him, then use his last name when referring to him. What threat does arguably the most loyal Konoha shinobi possess to the village? Uzumaki has grown too volatile and aggressive. Just look at how he brutalized the Uchiha. Our last Uchiha, need I remind you? Hamura replied. I personally checked everyone involved in that mission. Sasuke only has several bruises and a cut where Orochimaru's seal was, while Naruto had numerous cuts, bruises, a broken bone or two, and a fist-sized hole through his chest. Clearly Naruto was holding back while Sasuke was fighting to kill. Where is the threat? Tsunade inquired. The fact that he went so hard on his own teammate is the problem. Orochimaru's seal was clearly addling the Uchiha's mind, but Uzumaki didn't care. He needs to be punished, and we of the council have already decided. Oh? I didn't realize that the council has grown so powerful that they can decide on punishing shinobi that aren't under their control. Tsunade's chakra radiated a bit off of her, making everyone shift uncomfortably. It's in the laws, Hokage-sama. We are allowed to decide on one thing a year with the Hokage having no choice but to approve as long as the decision doesn't harm Konoha. Koharu said, feeling a bit smug. She didn't dare show it. She wouldn't put it past Tsunade to kill her for it. They were holding on to that law for a long time. For a moment just like this. Tsunade said nothing for a long time, staring at Koharu with a stoic expression. When she spoke, the same soft and cold voice was used. And what, pray tell, did the Honorable Council decide was a suitable punishment for a shinobi who completed his mission? Danzo, feeling emboldened, answered as calmly as he could. We were stuck between two options. Either we lock him up and extract as much semen as needed to get a Kunoichi pregnant, then when she gives birth, we have the Kyuubi transferred to the newborn. Either that or banish him from the village altogether. Where my root can apprehend him and I can properly mold his foolish mind into the perfect weapon. You have 12 hours, as is customary, to decide which punishment would be suitable, then sign off on it in front of the council. Hamura spoke next. While Tsunade's expression didn't change, her mind was a whirlwind. Why is it that they hate Naruto so much? I know for a fact he hasn't done anything to them because Sensei has notebooks recording all of Naruto's pranks, no matter how small or big they were. It can't just be for the Kyuubi. Why would the clan heads even agree to such a ridiculous notion? None of them are idiots in the slightest. Poor Naruto-kun. He won't be able to keep his promise to become Hokage, and I know that's going to break his heart. I'll have to banish him, but I'll do it in secret. There's no way Danzo wouldn't have people waiting to kidnap Naruto if I let him go in their time frame. I'll have Shizune and some Anbu I can trust to collect all of the things that belong to Naruto, and I'll have to let him go. damn this hurts. The Tsunade's game plan set, she spoke up. Then I will see you all here at 9:30 with my decision written up and signed. This meeting is adjourned. Everyone stood as one, bowed to Tsunade, and departed without a sound. As they were leaving, even the ever-stoic Danzo couldn't suppress a victorious smirk on his face. Chapter 2 To your continued freedom. Shikaku walked into his home in a melancholic mood. He said nothing as he trudged through his home. Finding who he was looking for, he went straight to her and hugged her from behind. He inhaled deeply, just basking in her presence, needing the reassurance she presented. Ishino was a bit startled at the sudden show of affection her husband is presenting to her, but she stayed silent. She sensed that something was deeply bothering him. He hadn't been this somber since the Third Shinobi War when they both held each other whenever they could, glad that the other is still alive. What happened for him to need reassurance? Yoshino thought to herself as she turned around and returned the hug. After a long moment, Shikaku was able to collect himself. Thank you, no-no-chan. Of course, Kaku-kun. What happened? What's wrong? Yoshino asked softly. I'm not proud of a choice I was forced to make. I betrayed one of my fellow Konoha comrades. I betrayed one of Konoha's most loyal shinobi. I betrayed Minato and Kushina's only child. Again. Shikaku replied, sounding incredibly morose. Are you able to give me details? Yoshino asked tentatively. She knew that some topics discussed in council meetings cannot be spoken to just anyone. So she was happy when he nodded, but that happiness vanished when she was told the root of the problem. The Inyazuka matriarch sat on the roof of her home staring at the moon and letting tears flow from her eyes. The emotional turmoil she previously felt is finally being released. It became harder to hold it in when the Hokage directed her gaze at her. Tonight was the second time she betrayed the pup of her friend Kushina. She knew the struggle the poor pup went through, but her hands were tied. If she were to adopt him or give him any help, then the Inyazuka clan would lose its prestige in the eyes of the civilian population, and the Inyazuka usually have kids with civilians. She could have helped him in secret, but she was scared she would have been found out, so she stayed awake every night looking towards the village, wondering in which alleyway that poor child slept in. Tonight, though, she fucked him over a second time, and her heart is having a hard time coming to terms with that. I'm sorry, Kushina-chan. The Ashi was almost giddy when he walked into his study. The foolish Kyuubi Jinchuriki was going to be permanently removed and Hinata will no longer be distracted and she can properly be molded to become the perfect heiress, just like her sister. It's a shame, but the rules of succession cannot be broken, Hiashi thought to himself. If it weren't for those rules, then Hiashi would have made Hanabi the heiress long ago. He knew that Hinata held back in the spars she had with her sister. Everyone but Hanabi knew. That gentle nature of Hinata's will have to go. Not only she doing herself a disservice, but she's also making Hanabi grow complacent and arrogant, two things a shinobi should not have in the field. Hinata will either be better or she will be removed. Hiashi thought as he ignored the portrait of his dead wife that seemed to be glaring at him. Most people see an Aburam clan member and incorrectly assume that they are completely incapable of seeing anything emotionally. Just because they prioritize logic doesn't mean they completely ignore emotions. So the current Aburam clan head, Shibi, knew that in both a logical and an emotional sense, punishing one Uzumaki Naruto was wrong, but there was nothing he could do. His wife died during a mission and his adopted son was taken away. He will not lose his remaining son. Tusan? I'm home. Something troubles you? He heard his son ask. It seems his son has returned from the mission he went on with his cousins. Hello, Shino-kun. Welcome home. Yes, something does trouble me. Today I was forced to do something that was both logical and illogical. What do you mean, Tusan? How can something be both logical and illogical? Shino asked as he sat down. You will be told soon anyways, so I'll tell you now and ask you to keep it a secret before it is told to the public. Your friend and comrade, Naruto Uzumaki, was banished tonight after successfully returning the Uchiha from defecting from Konoha. Shibi decided to just rip the band-aid off. Despite Shino's outward calmness, Shibi could tell just how agitated he was by the loud buzzing his comrades produced. Why? I was forced to do so. It was either this or the leaf will fall into a civil war and the other countries will want to take advantage. I know this is a lot to take in, Shino-kun, even I am still trying to come to terms with it, but know that Uzumaki did absolutely nothing wrong, so you may continue to consider him a friend. I see. Good night, Tusan. I have much to think on. Shino said before walking away. Inoichi Yamanaka was not just one of the high-ranking members of the torture and interrogation force, but he was also the foremost shinobi therapist. Most shinobi wear emotional masks so that they don't scare the civilian population by showing the horrors of the shinobi world. Some notable people who wear emotional masks would be Mido Guy and his boisterous attitude, along with his need to wear bright green to hide the pain from the things he's witnessed as an elite jonin. Bakashi Haddock acts aloof, reads smut in public, and is habitually late to every meeting. He'd be a cage-level shinobi by now if he trained seriously, instead focusing on the past. The death of his entire team really shattered him. Anko Midarashi, Inoichi's co-worker, hides the pain of constantly being distrusted by her fellow shinobi in a mask of insanity. She acts crazy to keep those who would harm her away. Naruto Uzumaki. Inoichi sighs as he sips his tea. Naruto Uzumaki has been forced to wear his idiot mask to lessen the attacks onto his person. Seeing one so young having to wear an emotional mask really bothered Inoichi. With the treatment he's received from the village, he'd be an obvious flight risk, but the boy showed genuine interest in becoming Hokage. He truly hoped Naruto would be able to escape tomorrow. Toza Akimichi is usually classified as the dumb muscle in the Inoshikacho trio by enemy shinobi and some comrades too, and he accepted that. While he was by no means a fool, he knew he wasn't as smart analytically as Shikaku or as smart emotionally as Inoichi, but one doesn't need to be smart to see the unfair and unjustified treatment of one Naruto Uzumaki. Like Shikaku did for his son, Choza encouraged Choji to befriend the boy. It truly angered him to see just how deplorable the village has become. But the intricate traps he planted as pranks, as well as the way he avoided high-ranking shinobi, including Anbu, when he was a mere academy student, it was clear to Choza that the kid had incredible potential as a shinobi. Unfortunately, the village's stupidity refuses to stop putting their woes on Naruto, not seeing that they had another prodigy in their midst. He hoped with all his being that the son of his friends could continue to endure through this horrid time. Tsunade sat in her office an hour after the meeting, her fingers were interlaced, and her head rested on top. She was glaring at nothing while her mind worked furiously to find some way to punish all involved in this plot to get rid of Naruto. Being no fool, Tsunade was definitely not going to let Danzo get his hands on Naruto, so she will have to banish Naruto several hours before the allotted time. Before a wave of sadness and anger set in, Shizune bustled in the office carrying a large scroll, while Taunton trailed behind her. "I have it, Tsunade-sama," she exclaimed. What Shizune carried was the Forbidden Scroll of Seals. First wielded by the Shadame Hokage, Hashirama Senju, then stolen by Naruto. After the ease that Naruto stole the scroll, the Sandaime put it in a more secure area in the Hokage library. Betting up, Tsunade went to the portrait of the Yondaime. She moved it aside to reveal a safe. Opening it, she pulled out Naruto's birth certificate, his parents' marriage certificate, and a note left to him by his father. As she closed the safe, an Anbu appeared also holding a large scroll. The scroll was black with a red spiral on it. The Anbu handed the scroll to Tsunade. Now holding two large scrolls and a couple pieces of paper, Tsunade shunshined to the hospital. She made a shadow clone to go get some necessary things, then made a beeline to Naruto's room. As soon as she stepped in, Naruto, being the light sleeper he was, woke up as soon as he felt another presence in the room. "Ah-chan. What are you doing here so late?" Naruto asked, a bit groggily. Tsunade didn't say anything. She walked up next to Naruto's bed, placed the scrolls on the floor, and gave Naruto a tearful hug. "I'm so sorry, Naruto." "Huh? Sorry? Sorry for what? What happened?" Naruto asked, his grogginess leaving as soon as he heard Tsunade's tearful apology. "Every once in a while, the councils are able to overrule me on one topic as long as it's a unanimous vote. They voted that you would either be imprisoned or banished." "For what? What could I have possibly done to warrant this?" Naruto asked incredulously. Tsunade gave a bitter chuckle. "You are clearly stronger than they'd like. Listen, Naruto, I think you should go. Stop and just let me explain." She saw Naruto was getting upset. "This village is suffocating you, Naruto. I've read the reports of your pranks. Your affinity for trap making as well as planning is incredible. The fact you could outrun and outmaneuver Anbu when you were just a kid is another plus. If you were given the same attention as the other students at the academy, you'd be another prodigy. This village is stifling your growth and you need to leave it to grow stronger." The team left for the same reason. He said that this village was holding him back. Naruto tried to argue. Naruto, the Uchiha has had practically everything handed to him. Extra lessons from different academy sensei, a large clan library, discounts in all the stores he goes to, the support of the civilian council. No, he was spoiled to a disgusting degree. Konoha gave him everything, and as soon as he was given a hint at an alternative, he left. You leaving will only benefit you. Do you understand? Naruto nodded, albeit reluctantly. Now these two scrolls are very important. You're already familiar with the Forbidden Scroll of Sealing, but this scroll is one of two. The Hokage library is filled with an untold amount of jutsu, and should Konoha ever fall, there are 2 scrolls that have an exact copy of all the jutsu in the library so that the Hokage could grab one of them and burn the rest of the library so that the jutsu never gets stolen and Konoha can be rebuilt somewhere else. Tsunade explained. Are you saying that you're giving these to me? Naruto asked in awe. That's right, Naruto. There's also something else you should know. Your parents, Naruto. Your mother was Kushina Uzumaki, the previous container of the Kyuubi, the only person I hesitated to ever seriously fight, and your father was Minato Namikaze, the Yondaime Hokage. Tsunade winced a bit, not knowing how Naruto would react. Naruto looked heartbroken. I knew it. I fucking knew it. I didn't want to believe it, but all the signs were there. What do you mean, you knew? How could you have known? Tsunade was puzzled. Since I'm about to be banished, then I'll let you know. I'm not the dumbest I portray to everyone. It's a mask that I was forced to wear so that something like this didn't happen sooner. The second I removed the mask, I'm being banished. He chuckled bitterly. Anyways, I figured out the Yondaime was my father years ago. I was born the same night the Kyuubi gets free and I'm the only orphan around to seal the Kyuubi in. Then there's the fact when the villagers beat me, some of them would shout about me mocking the Yondaime by taking on his looks. I hinted at me knowing the truth when I painted the Hokage monument. I panted whisker marks on his face. Just then, Tsunade's shadow clone came in and dropped off a large amount of IVs of different fluids. With a salute, she poofed away. Alright, Naruto. Now I need to completely heal you with the absolute best of my abilities, then you need to go to your parents' home and get what you need there, afterwards you need to go to another destination. I'll tell you all about it later. As she was talking, she was sticking a lot of different needles into his veins. Releasing her yin seal, she got to work healing Naruto to 100%. Naruto watched as hundreds of his clones ransacked the home of his parents. Thanks to a combination of Tsunade's healing, his natural Uzumaki healing factor, the Kyuubi's chakra, and the multitude of different IV bags, Naruto grew to the height he was supposed to be at his age, 5'5". Since he wasn't able to buy any proper groceries without being ridiculously overpriced, he could only eat ramen. If it wasn't for his tenet, Naruto would have died from only eating ramen and not getting any of the proper nutrients needed for a growing boy. Now he sat by the compound's gates writing his goodbye letter to his girlfriend. It hurt him that he has to leave her and he knew it would hurt her too, but he had no choice. He felt his clones dispersing by tens. As he finished his letter, he sat in a meditative position so that he could properly sort through the memories of his clones. He was happy they found so many pictures and paintings of his parents and their friends. Here you go, boss. His final clone popped after dropping a large scroll in front of him. He took the 2 other scrolls he had and sealed them into the big one. Then he made another clone to deliver his letter to his girlfriend. I guess this is it. He made his way to what he assumed was an emergency escape tunnel from the village. He found it completely by accident when he was younger and running from civilians who meant to do him harm. He figured the Yondaime made it in the event that Konoha was ever invaded and it was a hopeless situation. It was never used seeing how Konoha was only invaded once and that was decades after the tunnel was built. Bashing out the tunnel, he made out the village walls, then paused for a moment. I should really tell Bachan about this blatant security risk. He took out his notepad and wrote the details of the tunnel and the possibility of others. He made a shadow clone to go deliver his message, then continued onward to his first stop. As soon as 9:30 came, Tsunade walked into the council chambers. Even though she barely slept the night before, she looked as she always did, though her seal on her forehead was a bit faded due to the amount of chakra she used to heal all of Naruto's physical issues, as well as giving her the needed energy to go about her day. This time around there wasn't any of the disrespect. Everyone stood as she walked to her seat, then sat down after she did. Her usual stern expression looking harsher that morning. Allow me to not waste any time here. Naruto Uzumaki, Genin of Konohagakure no Sado, Shinobi registration number 0-1-2-6-0-7 is banished from the village, both as a shinobi and a civilian. I have the papers signed and they've just finished being filed. Tsunade spoke gravely. Toze and Tsum lowered their heads, while the other clan heads were able to keep a neutral expression. We thank you for your decisive action, Hokage-sama. We can now have Anbu collect him to properly sentence him. Kaharu said, fighting valiantly to keep the smugness out of her voice. Oh, there is no need for that. Tsunade stated. What do you mean, Hokage-sama? Homura had a bad feeling about that statement. He's already out of the village. I banished him hours ago after healing his injuries. Tsunade shrugged. The civilians and the shinobi council both exploded at this news. Tsunade just sat there in amusement watching them vociferate and complain. It was Danzo who took control of the situation and spoke. Hokage-sama, you were supposed to have him be sentenced in the council room. That is the proper procedure. I thought we should have a clean slate. The illustrious Shinobi Council had the impertinence to call a council meeting without my permission, then summoned me after the fact like I was a fucking genin. In lieu of having you all executed for your presumption, I decided to do something behind your backs just like you all did here. Tsunade didn't have the same problem as Kaharu, so when she spoke, she was unapologetically smug. No one could say anything to refute this, so the two different councils sat and stewed, while all the clan heads, except one, were noticeably more relaxed. Now that the only matter we've converged this morning is finished, I can end this meeting. As soon as everyone dismissed, Danzo made his way to his underground facility. He needed to send some of men after the brat. He spent over a decade trying to find a way to get him under his control, so he'll be damned if he lost this opportunity. Hinata was outside on top of a small pond slowly going through her katas. She was both incredibly angry and heartbroken. Her best friend, first love and boyfriend has been banished for doing his job. Hinata. A voice she'd much rather not hear called. She looked towards the land and found her sperm donor. Masking her face just like her love taught her, she made her way to Hiashi. That disappointed Uzumaki has been banished. Now that he's gone, I expect you to improve without him distracting you. Do you understand? Hiashi punctuated this by glaring. What he did not expect was to receive a glare in return. Let us get some things clear. First, Naruto-kun was not a distraction, he was an inspiration. A pillar who helped me grow stronger while you were determined to weaken me. Second, the shy, timid, and weak Hinata you were used to does not exist. She never did. It was a mask I wore so I can clearly determine who are my enemies and who are my allies. Naruto-kun taught me that. Now that I've gathered sufficient information on who is who, I can finally show my true strength. Rejoice, Otu-sama. You're getting what you want. With that, Hinata walked away, leaving a completely shell-shocked Hiashi behind. Hinata made her way to her room and reread the note that was left for her. Dear Haim. It hurts me to write this note, but there was no other choice. The outcome of me briefly slipping off my mask came true. Tsunade came in the middle of the night to tell me I've been banished. She gave me 2 huge scrolls filled to the brim jutsu and directed me to my parents' home. We were right, my parents were the Yondaime and Kishina Uzumaki. In their home, I found a special set of scrolls. They act like a Hurration. If I put a note in one, it'll appear in the other. So even though I'm banished, we'll still be able to send each other notes and small souvenirs. I know it's not the same as me being there, but it's the best we have for now. I think you should take off your mask. I think it's overdue. Show you are no longer a target. I love you Haim, now and always. Naruto. Hinata teared up again, but she wiped them away. She's cried enough. Located somewhere along the outskirts of Konoha is the Uzumaki clan's mask storage temple. At the entrance of the temple is a giant replica of the clan symbol. Within the temple, at the center, is a podium of sorts where hang several Oni masks hung beneath 3 connected symbols of the clan, under all of which are ornate black flames. These are powerful masks that can be used to summon a deity, one of them being the Shinigami himself. The shrine has since fallen into ruin from the wear and tear of time, though the masks all stayed intact. Tsunade had instructed him to retrieve those masks and keep them safe with him at all times. If Konoha wasn't going to do its job in protecting them, they can't have its power. It upset Naruto to see just how disrespectful Konoha was to the Uzumaki. They wear the clan symbol on their hit-8 and on the back of their flak vests, yet they completely erased their existence from the history books and their academy's curriculum. Shaking his head, he found another large storage scroll. This one was covered in dust, but it was still intact. Carefully and reverently placing each mask in a different seal, he closed a scroll, then he placed the scroll into the larger one that had the other 2 scrolls in them. Hefting the scroll onto his back, he made his way to the fire temple. Tsunade had told him that they would accept any traveler as long as you don't harm them. Going in the direction Tsunade indicated, Naruto sped off. What do you mean you banished Naruto? Sat in front of Tsunade in the Hokage's office was one Jiraiya of the Sannin, and he looked deathly calm. This was new to Tsunade. She's seen him angry and serious, but this was a new beast. Absolute fury. Tsunade sighed tiredly. It's as I said, Jiraiya. I banished Naruto. I had no better choice. You're the Hokage. It doesn't matter what other people's opinions are. Your word is law unless contested by the fire daimyo. Jiraiya stated calmly, his face unchanged. It's in the laws, Jiraiya, I've double-checked myself. The council are allowed to decide on one thing a year with the Hokage having no choice but to approve as long as the decision doesn't harm Konoha. This was the lesser of 2 evils. They wanted to lock him up and extract as much semen as needed to get a Kunoichi pregnant, then when she gives birth, have the Kyuubi transferred to the newborn. Then you can tell that damned council that I'm hereby removing my spy network from supporting Konoha. Then Jiraiya got up and walked out the door, not using the window like he usually does. Tsunade sighed again. She glanced towards the 3 shadow clones doing paperwork at one side of the office. That was Naruto's gift to her, the idea of using clones to do paperwork never crossed her mind. She pulled out a bottle of sake and toasted Naruto. Your continued freedom, Gaki. Chapter 3. He was getting close. Tsunade sat in her office, completely sober as she silently hyped herself up for what she was about to do. Are you sure this is wise, Tsunade-sama? Naruto has been through enough as it is. Won't this just add on to his burden? Shizune, Tsunade's assistant and lone apprentice, asked. Tsunade nodded. It was a reasonable question given what she planned to do. I understand your concerns, Shizune, I really do, but this needs to be done. She got up and walked towards the balcony. Is the whole village gathered? Tsunade asked as she observed the massive crowd below. They were all chattering amongst themselves, wondering what she was going to announce. Hi, Tsunade-sama. With a final nod, Tsunade walked out to the balcony. In front of her was several microphones connected to various speakers all over the village. After a brief pause, she began to speak. Deep under Konoha, the 3 members of the Shinobi Council sat in an office, stewing in their anger. That foolish, half-witted, imbecilic, moronic woman. Kaharu spat in a vitriolic rant. Despite the idiotic woman's attempt, I've already sent Rude on the Jinchuriki's trail. It won't be long for that stupid boy to be caught. Danzo placated. Don't forget. Even though he has the mental capacity of a small child, he was still able to avoid and outrun Anbu when he was an academy student. It will most likely be a while before your root bring him back. It's already been 2 days. Homura reminded Danzo. Danzo scoffed. That just proves that the Anbu have gotten lax and weak if a mere boy can do that. My roots stay at top form constantly. What are we to do for the Uchiha? Tsunade's clear bias against him will truly end the Uchiha line. How are we to remake the clan under Konoha's control if we don't have an Uchiha to start? Kaharu asked. Danzo showed a ghost of a smirk. I've already sent my men to break him out. We'll bring him here and train him to kill Itachi, then have him remake his clan. Sasuke sat in his cell simmering in anger. He lost. He lost to the dead last. He lost to the dope. He lost to the failure. He lost to Naruto Uzumaki. He was currently in Mizuki Castle, better known as the Blood Prison. Usually missing nins as well as other criminals are executed on sight, but there are some who are important in a political sense, so they are sent to the Blood Prison. Sasuke, as he was the last loyal Uchiha, counts as politically important. So there he sat, in the middle of the night, stewing in his anger at losing. I don't care how it takes, I will kill you Naruto. Then when I get my power boost from that, I'll be able to kill Itachi. Sasuke said to himself. That might be sooner than you believe. Sasuke looked up to see an Anbu standing in front of his cell. What do you mean? Why are you here? I and my comrades are here to break you out, Uchiha-sama, replied a toneless voice. Sasuke just smirked. I'm Skip. Thank you for your teachings and for granting me sanctuary, Chiriku-sama. Naruto bowed respectfully. No thanks necessary, Uzumaki-san. You needed help, so we helped you. Chiriku and some other monks behind him bowed to Naruto. The 2 years he spent with the monks was the most productive he's ever truly been. He was adept in many of the jutsu from both his parents' personal arsenal and the Hokage library. The hardest to learn was the Hiraishin. While he was learning the Hiraishin, he grew a healthy respect for his father as a shinobi. For a non-Uzumaki to be able to dissect seals to such a degree is incredible. Even though he was piggybacking off the Nidame's notes to make it, the Yondaime was the only one to make sense of them. Naruto was also able to recreate his mother's chakra chains. They were terrifying. Unbreakable and drains chakra, 2 devastating combinations when used. They were even able to hold the Kyuubi. Speaking of the Kyuubi, Naruto made friends with the construct. They, of course, had a rough beginning, but they were able to talk it out. Naruto even started to call the Kyuubi Nai-san, which oddly made it very amused for some reason. When he yanked the paper off the gates, he was shocked to find both his parents showing up. As soon as he saw his father, before he could stop himself, he punched him hard enough to send him flying. His mother gaped for a moment before bursting out laughing. After she collected herself, she gave him a hug that only a loving mother could give. He sorely needed that in his life. They sat and talked for a long time, his father joining after recovering from the punch. They learned of what his life was like from his own mouth, playing his memories to add to his words. Furious would be too mild of a word to use to describe how angered they both were at the treatment of their child. With the help of the monks and his parents, he was able to grow from the emotional trauma he faced in his childhood. Now he planned to go to Yuzashiogakur, his ancestral home. His mother directed him to a secret entrance to the island. With the final blow, Naruto turned and made his way to Yuzu. Flashback no jutsu. Repeat yourself, Jiraiya-san. By paraphrasing, it sounds like you said a dutiful and loyal Konoha shinobi was banished for completing his mission. Is this why Nami no Kuni, Haru no Kuni, and Tsuki no Kuni are all demanding to sever the alliance we secured? After Jiraiya pulled his spy network from Konoha, he went directly to the Fire Daimyo's court in the heart of Hai no Kuni. It didn't long for the news of Naruto's banishment to reach beyond the borders of Hai no Kuni. Jiraiya gained an audience with the daimyo and explained all that befell his godson. Hi, Daimyo-sama. Naruto Uzumaki, son of Kushina Uzumaki and Minato Namikaze, was banished from Konoha following a successful retreat mission. The councils, using an old and obscure law, went behind the Hokage's back to vote for a suitable punishment. Tsunade had to choose between imprisoning Naruto indefinitely and banishment. Jiraiya explained. He was kneeling, his eyes downcast. His usual perversion kept tightly controlled despite the multiple beautiful concubines and servants in the room. The current daimyo has been ruling for only a year after his father's death. His father before him liked to leave the ruling over Konoha to the Hokage and manage everywhere else in his lands. Clearly my father's standoffish attitude regarding Konoha has made those in power grow in arrogance. They believe that the laws of the land they are occupying are obsolete to them. It seems that I must make a visit and start paying close attention to my subjects. Guards. Prepare my carriage and inform the samurai that we will be going to Konoha. Hi, Daimyo-sama. The two guards ran out the throne room. I thank you for bringing this to my attention, Jiraiya-san. Rest assured, you will not be placed in the bingo books and you still have your Sanin status as well as all that entails. The daimyo reassured. Thank you, Daimyo-sama, for your kindness towards my godson and myself. Jiraiya spoke humbly. Of course, Jiraiya-san. Now, I must prepare myself for the journey to Konoha. Flashback no Jutsu Kai. Jiraiya spent following 2 years after that looking for Naruto. He traveled to all the countries that Naruto visited for a mission. Using all of the skills he's cultivated over the years, he spoke to a lot of different people in those countries about Naruto and to glean any clues he could about him. Naruto was regarded as a hero in all of them. It filled Jiraiya with pride and shame that Naruto was able to do all of that after essentially raising himself. Jiraiya could have at least visited Naruto every time he came to Konoha, but he focused on peeping on unsuspecting women and delivering his report. He could only imagine just how far Naruto would have gotten if he received a modicum of actual instructions instead of constantly having people try to sabotage him. Now it's been 2 years and Jiraiya was lost on where else to look for Naruto. If he could, he would have reverse summoned him using the Toad contract, but they were Konoha summons because their main summoner was loyal to the Leaf. When Naruto was banished, Katsaya the Slug Summons sent a missive explaining Naruto's banishment and the Toads were forced to remove his name from the contract. None of them truly wanted for that to happen, but they had no choice. Jiraiya sighed in exhaustion. He just crossed over into Hai no Kuni's borders and was thinking on where Naruto could have gone. I've already been everywhere he was, even visited the new Kazekage, who I heard was a friend of Naruto's. I can't think of anywhere outside of Fire Country he could have gone. Unless he never left the damn country. Son of a bitch, Jiraiya swore as he dashed off towards the fire temple. Naruto walked through the ruins of his ancestral home with tears falling unimpeded. All around him was the skeletal bodies of his fallen kin. From what he's seen, the invaders didn't discriminate on who they killed. The skeletons of children and babies being clutched in their parents' arm led credence to that. As he stood at the center of the island, he summoned thousands of clones. When they all poofed in existence, he pulled out a massive empty storage scroll. Collect every Uzumaki skeleton and bring them here, then, put them in this storage scroll. Leave the bodies of the enemy nin for last. When you're all done storing away my kin, collect the bodies of the enemy nin and put them in a pile. Once that's completed, burn them. They willingly murdered children and babies. They are not deserving of a proper burial. Dispel in groups of 10 when you're all done. Yosh. With that, Naruto's clones went to work collecting the Uzumaki. He felt that his family deserved better than to be buried in a ruined island. While his clones were at work, he followed the senses he's been ignoring to deal with the dead. His senses led him to what looked to be the clan head's office. Looking at the wall, there was a massive map. On the east was the elemental nations in detail from the biggest countries and cities to the smallest. Naruto has never truly seen a map of the elemental nations before, so he was entranced by the sight. He has always believed the elemental nations to be the only land mass, but looking at the west part of the map, he saw a land larger than the elemental nations. It didn't have any details like the eastern section of the map, but there was a small summary on the center. The west and the east were once one whole continent, but the land was constantly ravaged in violence and war. The Sage of Six Paths, seeing the suffering of the civilians and the more peaceful clans wanting nothing to do with all the violence, used his powers to separate the land. Naruto stood there a moment to process all of this information, then a small smile graced his lips. The lands were separated centuries ago, so there's a very low possibility of the wars still going on. Hinata and I can start fresh in a new land. With a new sense of urgency, Naruto began looking through the office for more details of the West. After an hour, he found nothing. Using his senses, he went to the ground floor of the clan head office. In a far corner on the wall was a small seal with the label Legacy on it. Following his senses, he bit his thumb and bled on the small seal. Hearing a poof behind him, he turned to find a trapdoor opening in the center of the room. Cautiously, he walked towards it and found stairs leading down towards a tunnel. It was oddly clean, with torches lighting automatically. Making his way to the end of the tunnel, he found a life-size statue holding a naginata in one hand and a katana on the other. Around its neck was a black magatama necklace with a purple howling wolf koi engraved on it. Both the katana and naginata matched the necklace, in which they are all black with purple accents on it. With a smile, he realizes that the purple matched his mother's eyes. He reached out to place a hand on the statue, right on the chest. He bowed his head briefly, then looked back up to see the necklace and weapons gone. Then he felt a strange weight on his right hand. He looked at it and found a bracelet and a ring, both with the Uzumaki symbol on them. He then placed a hand on his chest and found the necklace there. Following a hunch, he channeled chakra on his wrist and the naginata appeared. Channeling chakra into it again, it disappeared and the bracelet came back. He repeated this action with the ring. After bowing to the statue, he began to look around the area only to finally take notice of the skeleton on the ground. It was wearing cage robes, but it was covered in dried blood and there was a large tear on the side, showing that it was a fatal wound. By the skeleton were two scrolls. One was a summoning contract and the other was a scroll with another blood seal labeled Legacy. He sealed the skeleton in a small scroll, then picked up the two scrolls. He made his way outside and sat on top of building, watching his clones at work. He looked at the summoning contract. Opening it, he found that it was a contract for the wolves. He decided to sign it at a later date when he wasn't so emotionally imbalanced from being at Yuzu. He looked at the legacy scroll. Reopening the wound on his thumb, he swiped his blood on the seal. Immediately, the small seal on the scroll grew and multiple seals spread across the scroll. As the seals overtook the scroll, the seals started to spread onto Naruto's hand. Panicking, Naruto tried to drop the scroll, but he couldn't let it go. The scroll started vanishing the more seals spread onto Naruto. Soon, darkness consumed his vision as he lost consciousness. Tsunade drank a cup of tea while watching the sunset on top of the Hokage monument. Not long after Naruto's banishment, she stopped drinking altogether. It was a self-imposed punishment for not stopping Naruto's banishment. She made her way here, in a spot Naruto always came when he was here, to reminisce over the last 2 years, while her clones handled her paperwork. Konoha was in a steep decline when an irate daimyo made his way into a council meeting. Flashback no jutsu. The Uchiha must not face criminal charges, as he was under the influence of the cursed seal. Kahari Utatane was petitioning to Tsunade. Tsunade was less than impressed. That is no excuse for his attempted defection. He needs to be suitably punished for this. Looking around the room to make sure everyone was paying attention, she laid down the law. Sasuke Uchiha, Genin of Konohagakure no Sate, Shinobi registration number 0-1-2-6-0-6, is to be sent to Mizuki Castle, better known as the Blood Prison. Furthermore, Cell 7 is immediately dissolved. Captain Haddock has shown that he is not capable of leading a team of genin due to his blatant favoritism and will be placed back inside the Anbu. Sakura will be reassigned to another cell. The civilian side of the council had no choice but to agree with Tsunade's decree. They were angered with the ruling, but they were also in a good mood as they had finally gotten rid of the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, circumventing around Tsunade's authority in order to do so. What is the next order of business, advisor Midokado? Hamura then spoke. Our next order of business is the Kyuubi Jinchuriki himself. I propose that he will be placed in the bingo book as a S-rank missing ninja with orders to kill on sight. Turning to Tsunade, noting the furious expression on her face, he spoke quickly. The boy is a danger. Who know what he will do? He is unpredictable and now that he has been banished, he could take his revenge on Konoha. Before anything else could be said, the chamber's doors opened and armored samurai stepped inside, ready to execute their lord's will. The Ashi Hyuga was on his feet. This is a private meeting. He barked. Who dares interrupt this honorable council? I dare, Hyuga. The fire daimyo intoned as he strode inside, causing the Hyuga clan head to drop onto his seat quickly. The man's face showed genuine discontent of the council who had orchestrated the banishment of Minato's son and the Hokage, who was helpless to stop them. The council and Tsunade stood and bowed in respect of the ruler of Fire Country. Daimyo-sama, to what we owe the honor of your visit today? Hamura asked. The daimyo looked around before he began to speak. I have received word from a very creditable source that this so-called honorable council are attempting to place a boy in the bingo book for the sole reason of being the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. He deadpanned. At that sentence, the council chamber went silent. Their scheme was exposed. The daimyo caught the looks on the council's faces. So it is true. The Ashi was the first to quickly reply to the daimyo's accusation. Daimyo-sama, well that alone is a valid reason, it is not the main reason. He attempted to explain. The daimyo turned to Hiashi. Do you believe I am a fool, Hyuga? He asked in an ice-cold tone. Please tell me. Wisely, Hiashi kept his mouth shut since he wanted to keep his head. Coming from you, Hyuga, I am most surprised to see that you of all people defending the Uchiha, given the bad blood between your clan and the Uchiha. I'm willing to bet you were very happy when most of them were slaughtered. The daimyo voiced, causing Hiashi to purse his lips. I have seen the mission parameters for the Uchiha retrieval mission, and you banished the boy solely for doing his job. If anything, the Uchiha should be banished, if not executed outright, for his attempted defection from the Leaf, as well as nearly causing the deaths of his teammates, as well as the visiting envoy from Suna, who was also sent along for the mission. One of the civilians rose up in protest. Tsunade recognized her as Mibuki Haruno, Sakura's mother and the leader of the Konoha Mercantile Guild. Daimyo-sama, please excuse my interruption, but I must protest. Sasuke is the last of the Uchiha clan. He is needed here. Advisor Udatane verified it herself. The Uchiha was under the influence of the cursed seal. Oh? Tell me, Advisor Udatane, are you a Fuinjutsu mistress? Kaharu kept her mouth shut, her face carefully blank. Your daimyo asked you a question, Advisor. It looked as if it was painful for her to speak when she replied. No, daimyo-sama, I am not. Then you have no business speaking on things you know nothing about. The daimyo roared, causing the entire council flinch back. You fools value the Uchiha Sharingan so far to the point that this pathetic council banished an innocent boy for something that was not in his control. No one could even look in the daimyo's general direction as he spoke, but unfortunately for them, he was not finished. The Uchiha left the village of his own accord and you were more than willing to sacrifice your own shinobi to bring him back. But back to the matter at hand. You banished the Uzumaki boy on trumped-up charges, yet he was more injured than the Uchiha. And now, you wish to place him in the bingo book solely because he is the jailer of the Nine Tails. He began to count off on his fingers. 1. You had overrode the authority of your Hokage to have him banished, ergo you cannot label him as a missing nin. 2. I see no reason to have him placed in the book, nor send Hunter Ninja after him, since he is not a criminal. The third reason is strictly political. Off their confused looks, the daimyo decided to explain. My counterpart in Wind Country spoke highly of the Uzumaki boy, as he had helped the Tsunade Jinchuriki, and also saw that he was wrong in cutting their military aid. The Princess of Spring Country, as well as the people of Wave Country, also hold the boy in high regards for his actions, as does countless others. My own influence will decrease should he is placed in the bingo book. The council knew what was coming. Anzo rose from his seat. Daimyo-sama, please. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki is a threat to the Leaf. He must be dealt with while we have the chance. The daimyo cut him off with a glare. If I remember correctly, Shimura, you do not dictate what I should do. I am the daimyo of Hai no Kuni. Not you. Are we clear? Hi, daimyo-sama. My apologies. Danzu grated as he slid back into his seat. Even the Warhawk knew better than to go against a fire daimyo. The daimyo then made his judgment. While I cannot reverse the banishment orders, I can issue the following edict. Naruto Uzumaki will not be placed in the bingo book, nor will you continue to send Hunter Ninja after him. This is my final word on this matter. If I find out that he is placed inside or you continue to send your Anbu after him, not only will I have the entire Konoha Council civilian and shinobi executed for high treason against fire country, but Sasuke Uchiha will be executed as well, just to spite you. Any protests the council was planning on making instantly died in their mouths. They knew that the fire daimyo was serious. Seeing as the council was willed into submission, the daimyo nodded. Glad you decided to see things my way. As of this moment, the matter regarding Uzumaki is closed. Flashback no Jutsu Kai. The daimyo would later decrease Konoha's military budget by a significant amount as punishment to the whole village. To raise money, Konoha had to lower prices on missions for a long time while Tsunade enacted her plan. She had a massive casino and hotel built in the center of Konoha. The Lucky Leaf was able to return a good chunk of revenue back into Konoha. It's not what it was, but Konoha was staying afloat for now. I hope you're doing alright, Naruto. Hinata missed her boyfriend. The 2 years since he was banished were very annoying to Hinata. Not everyone was happy with Hinata's change. One of them being her cousin, Niji. Hinata had stopped holding back in her spars with her sister and the elders were unhappy. So they arranged a spar with the clan prodigy. In their words, the heiress must be one of the strongest in clan if she is to bring more prestige to it. Unfortunately for them, their scheme didn't go as planned. Flashback no Jutsu. Hajime. "You should," Niji began, but was immediately cut off when Hinata spun on her right foot and swiftly brought her left leg up and swung it hard across Niji's face. The male Hyuga, caught off guard by the surprise attack, was sent spinning off the ground before hitting the floor with a thud. All the occupants in the room sat in sheer disbelief. Niji, momentarily dazed, gradually got back on his feet while rubbing his face, which now had a shocked expression and a noticeable bruise forming. As much as he would have liked to deny it, Hinata's surprise attack hurt a lot and left him dizzy for a moment. He couldn't believe that Hinata not only managed land a swift blow onto his face with her foot, but she made him look stupid in front of everyone during his speech. Feeling something warm with an iron-like taste seeping down his chin, Niji rubbed his lips only to find that he was now bleeding from a swollen and busted lip. The bruise in his jaw was even more painfully felt. "Instead of wasting time talking, let's spar." Hinata spoke, her voice calm. Niji looked back at Hinata with unadulterated hatred. "I'll kill her." Niji raged internally as anger and bloodlust leak out of him. "Fool. Letting his anger dictate his actions." Hinata scoffed mentally. Niji charged at Hinata with his palm raised and extended. As his coordinated attacks came one after another, Hinata was able to evade and deflect every last one of them easily. But to the eyes of all the onlookers, it was as though two prodigies were blurs. The speed they were moving at made it look like they were at a stalemate. The two Hyuga backed away and stood 10 yards away from each other. Niji looked at Hinata carefully and found her looking completely calm and confident with no trace of doubt, fear, or insecurity. "She's always been weaker than me. I refuse to be defeated by her. No. Fate will not allow it." Niji thought to himself as he gritted his teeth in frustration. He was the Hyuga prodigy, a genius, the one who was given the strongest Byakugan abilities in the Hyuga clan, and he wasn't going to be defeated by the one he regarded as the weakest link of the main house. "Not bad, Hinata-sama, but it'll take more than just fancy dodging to stand against me in this fight," stated Niji as he assumed his Juukin stance and prepared for another round. At this, Hinata replied. "You may speak like that when you've landed a hit on me." The two combatants charged at each other. They met and began throwing open palm strikes at each other. Niji tried to palm Hinata's stomach, but the Hyuga heiress blocked and sent a palm towards Niji's chest. He dodged to the left and tried to strike back. Hinata evaded as well. This fast-paced sidestep block evade dance continued for a while as neither landed a blow on the other. Gripping his fists tightly, Hiashi watched the match before him. Hinata's words rang through his head as he paid rapt attention to the spar. "Now that I've gathered sufficient information on who is who, I can finally show my true strength. Rejoice, Otu-sama. You're getting what you want. Except, this is not what I wanted." Now her foolish dreams of releasing the branch family of the caged bird seal are looking more realistic. Damn it all. Hiashi thought. Niji rushed forward again and tried going for her chakra points to strike and shut them down. Though Niji's raw skills were known for always making their mark, Hinata's agility and lithe figure allowed her to level the playing field as she swiftly moved around Niji and all of his attacks without getting hit even once. After 10 minutes and failing to hit even one of her chakra points, Niji and Hinata pulled back from each other. He was breathing a bit heavily while Hinata didn't even look warmed up yet. That served to infuriate Niji, though he maintained his composure. "Is this the best your training did for you?" Niji asked after catching his breath. "No, I was merely getting an assessment of your fighting style and your pattern," Hinata answered calmly. "I think I've seen enough. Your arrogance is unbecoming, Hinata-sama. The outcome of this match was already decided from the time you were set to fight me. You are fated to lose disgracefully at my feet." Niji sneered. Hinata didn't even respond. With an impassive expression worthy of any Hyuga, she balled her fists and held her arms in an upright position. She focused her chakra into her arms, and before long, her arms flared with chakra. She increased and strengthened the output of her chakra, which then took on the form of two large lion head-shaped shrouds of chakra with glowing wide eyes around their hands. The intense roaring of her chakra gave the impression that the lion heads were truly roaring fiercely. Niji, despite his best efforts, couldn't help but look shocked at what he was seeing. "Kosumshiken, gentle step twin lion fists," Hinata said. "Kosumshiken. I wasn't aware that such a Juukin exists. Damn. It must be a main branch technique." Niji growled internally. To himself while looking at the amount of chakra Hinata was putting out. "This is very troubling." One of the elders whispered to his fellow elders. "Very troubling indeed." Niji charged at her and aimed to hit one of her chakra points. Upon reaching her, Niji thrust his right palm forward to strike. However, Hinata moved so fast it looked as though she completely vanished in front of him. "What?" Niji said as he had never seen Hinata move that fast. Before he could fully process what just happened, Hinata reappeared next to him at his right and delivered a brute punch straight into his gut and lower ribs, effectively knocking the breath out of him. Niji doubled over and coughed up blood out of his mouth as the pain ripped through his body as he seemingly lost his voice to let out the yell that wanted to escape his throat that was now spewing some blood from his mouth. He grunted lowly while on the ground with blood still in his mouth as Hinata stepped away from him with her fist still flaring with her lion head chakra. When she was 20 feet away from him, she turned to him and waited patiently for Niji to pick himself off the ground. If Niji-san doesn't get up in the next 10 seconds, he will be forfeited. 10, 9. Niji gathered his strength together and gradually stood back up to see Hinata staring at him. "You yield?" Hinata asked. Realizing that Hinata stood there and waited for him to stand and get back on his feet after knocking him down, Niji's anger grew hot. Hinata saw the look on his face and merely raised an eyebrow. "I'm giving you the chance to surrender and to walk away from this peacefully, with no further injuries being inflicted on you, Niji-san. Don't speak to me as though I'm beneath you, Hinata-sama." Niji growled. "Just because you managed to catch me off guard mean you're better than me. I don't see you as beneath me and I acknowledge your developed skills and aptitude in our clan's Junkan. But I will fight you seriously this time if you choose to continue," Hinata stated. "You didn't back down when I told you to, Hinata-sama, so don't expect me to back down just because you asked me to," Niji replied. "You wish to continue? Very well." Hinata said as she clenched her fists and assumed a Juukan stance, her fist still maintaining her Jikosum. Niji wiped the blood away from his mouth and assumed his own stance. A few seconds later, Hinata charged at Niji and likewise Niji charged at her. Before they reached each other, Hinata disappeared and reappeared suddenly in front of her older cousin and punched him square in the face, effectively busting his nose as blood now came from out of it. He was left in a daze again, this time with his head throbbing and vision temporarily blurred. This was followed up with fast left kicks to his lower legs, stomach, the midsection of his chest, his stomach, then a high axe kick up to his bottom jaw and fast axe kick down to the top of his head. She kicked him several more times with her right foot before delivering 4 swing kicks with her right and left legs to both of his arms, which was followed with up a swift roundhouse kick that flipped Niji backwards off his feet and down onto his chest. Hinata backed away and stood her grounds after knocking Niji down for the 3rd time. By this time the battered Niji was covered in noticeable bruises around his body, with several sections of his clothes and bandages stained with his blood. This is impossible. There's no logical explanation for Hinata-sama's sudden power and strength. Fate had her future as a failure set from long ago, Niji thought as he struggled to stand. "Once again, Niji-san, do you yield?" Hinata asked coolly. "Never." Niji sneered as he summoned his strength and rushed straight at Hinata again. Despite how fast he was moving while ignoring the pain from his injuries, she sidestepped and jumped away with her hands moving together and getting ready for Niji. He turned and came at her. She evaded all of his attacks without bothering to block any of them. Soon though, he found an opening and delivered a Juukan punch there. Seeing that she was knocked off balance, he started attacking her chakra points directly around her arms, cancelling out her Jikosum. He then delivered a brute Juukan palm strike to the center of her breasts, leading her to cough up blood as she was thrown backwards to the floor with a thud. "Finally," another elder remarked. "I was worried she would be the victor." "Keep your voice down. You can try to defy fate all you like, Hinata-sama, but nothing will change the outcome of this match," Niji said, feeling confident that things returned back in his favor. Until he saw Hinata slowing getting back up off the ground. But then her body completely broke down and scattered into many spiraling floating rose petals. The petals floated and hovered around Niji, who looked on in confusion. "What is this? What's happening?" Niji asked himself. A moment later, he realized what happened. "Hi!" Niji yelled as he formed a seal and dispelled the genjutsu. He snapped out of the deception he was put under in time to see the unharmed Hinata elbow him hard to the face after she had already delivered several Juukan punches to his body while he was under her genjutsu. The entire room was paralyzed. For most, it was shock, but for the elders, it was fear. Hinata, someone they constantly belittled and insulted, can perform genjutsu that can even fool the Byakugan. She could easily kill them if they aren't careful from here on out. Before Niji could retaliate, Hinata grabbed him and quickly leaped and sat herself on top of his shoulders and wrapped her legs around his back tightly. "What?" the Niji said as he found Hinata piggyback riding on him. He tried pulling her legs off him but found that her hold on him was like a vice grip. Hinata, while holding Niji securely with her legs, backflipped with Niji being lifted completely off the ground with her. Everyone watched as Hinata's hands landed perfectly on the ground and with the same momentum and strength, she swung Niji over her and down towards the ground. Niji's eyes widened as he saw that he was about to be slammed to the ground on his face and chest. A second later, an audible thud was heard as Hinata slammed her cousin into the ground. Hinata removed her legs from around his back and took a few steps away from her put-down cousin. While Niji was disoriented, he gradually pulled himself together, picked himself off the floor. He charged at her and aimed to strike her near the lungs. However, Hinata charged forward and smacked his left hand away. She followed up with several fierce Juuken strikes to his chakra points around his body, which in effect did some damage to his internal organs and muscles. Hinata then clenched her fists, and in blurred motion, she rained down an 18-hit combo of Juuken punches to his chest, stomach, back and face, with the last punch being a swift right fist uppercut that sent Niji soaring straight into the air towards the ceiling. Before he could reach the ceiling, Niji opened his eyes to see Hinata suddenly appear in front of him. The next thing he saw was her lion-enshrouded right fist colliding into his chest, sending him plunging right into the ground on his back. The ground underneath him cratered on impact with a small dust cloud as Hinata landed gracefully on her feet to see Niji where he was. She thrust both of her fists into the air and intensified her chakra output with a loud roaring of her chakra, making it look as through the twin lion heads around her arms were roaring loudly with pride. Hinata lowered her arms down to her sides and dispelled her Jikosu Shiken. Niji coughed up more blood as pain completely ripped through his entire body as he lied on his back in the crater with 4 cracked ribs and a concussion on top of the other external and internal injuries he already had. He found it difficult to breathe, but he willed himself not to stop. If Niji-san doesn't get up in the next 10 seconds, he will be forfeited. 10, 9. Niji, with his Byakugan still activated, grunted as he turned and crawled out from the crater and faced Hinata, who stood calm and upright on the arena floor with her Byakugan still activated as she looked right back at him. Niji managed to summon up some strength to get on his hand and knee, though he was sweating hard, bleeding and coughing blood from his mouth and struggling to catch his breath. "I will not ask you a third time, Niji-san. This time, I'm telling you, yield," Hinata stated with a strong tone. Where did all of this power and strength come from? Niji wondered as he looked back at Hinata with anger, disdain and confusion. Hinata-sama has always been the weakest and the most disappointing heiress of the main house. She couldn't even win a fight against Hanabi-sama, and her Juuken was always the poorest. How could she have changed so suddenly and hurt me, the prodigy of our clan, this bad? It doesn't make any sense. Fate had her future as a failure decided from long ago. Niji grew only angrier the more he thought about it. "I don't want to hurt you any more than I already have, Niji-san," Hinata said composedly. "You're clearly in no condition to continue." "I don't need your pity, Hinata-sama." Niji spat disrespectfully as he finally got up and stood back up, looking Hinata straight in the eyes. "You may have improved, but I can still fight and come out the victor as fate decreed since this match's beginning." Niji charged at Hinata with all of his remaining strength, with the aim to kill her, while again trying to ignore the pain his whole body and head was in. Hinata stood there and waited for Niji to reach her with his right arm extended out, aiming to strike her heart directly. "He won't yield. I suppose it can't be helped," Hinata thought as she saw an opening, and at the last second, she rapidly sidestepped Niji and thrust her fingers into his back, hitting several spots on his back. This resulted in Niji falling forward past her with the same speed before crashing down on his face and chest, sliding across the floor for a few seconds before coming to a stop with his bloodline limit deactivating. Niji found that he was unable to move any part of his body. He was completely paralyzed. Defeated, Niji, the proclaimed genius and prodigy of the Hyuga clan, dropped his head to the ground, unable to bear his shame and disgrace. Flashback no Jutsu Kai. Now that it's clear Hinata isn't weak by any means, the elders have been avoiding her, but she knew they continued to scheme. As she watched the sunset, she thought of Naruto. "I miss you, Naruto-kun." Naruto woke to feeling an intense heat and a massive headache. He knew this feeling. It was the feeling he felt when a lot of his clones popped at once. Keeping his eyes closed, he sorted through all his new memories. As he was doing this, he realized there was more memories than there should be. He has memories of hundreds of Uzumaki Fuinjutsu grandmasters. They were all clan heads. All they knew about Fuinjutsu, he now knew. All the training they did with the katana and the naginata, he now knew. The Uzumaki Taijutsu style that has been perfected for generations, he now knew. The fundamentals of a shinobi, he was adept before, but now he mastered. The scroll he touched was a contingency all the Uzumaki clan heads worked on should the Uzumaki clan become nearly extinct. The necklace, katana and naginata are things that are passed down from clan head to clan head. After coming to terms with his newfound knowledge, he opened his eyes to find the cause of the heat he's feeling. His eyes now had flecks of purple in them. At the center of Yuzu was a massive pile of bones that were lit on fire. He looked down and found the summoning scroll and the new scroll of bodies that his clones made. The legacy scroll was nowhere to be found. He now had everything he needed to go west. "I apologize, Jiraiya Dono, but Uzumaki-san left over a week ago. He did mention he was going to Yuzushiogakure," Chiraku told Jiraiya. Jiraiya finally made it to the fire temple. "Thank you, Chiraku Dono." I have to leave immediately if I want to catch up. He was getting close. Chapter 4 Naruto of the Wolves. Walking off the boat, he gave the beautiful beach a passing glance as he made his way towards the forest. He walked for about a couple hours without seeing any sign of civilization. He took notice that the sun was setting, so he made a small camp and ate his food that he sealed. When he finished, he felt that now was as good as any time to sign the wolf contract. After opening and signing the scroll, he did the proper hand signs and paid in blood. Kuchius no Jutsu. In a puff of smoke an average-sized dark gray wolf appeared. Ah. I see. You must be a new summoner. I am Ayaka. You don't look like an Uzumaki, but you have the scent of one. Come along then, pup. Your test awaits. Word of advice, do not show weakness. A feminine gravelly voice spoke before she placed a paw on his shoulder. Wait, what was all Naruto could get out before they poofed away? Jiraiya looked around in shock. The last time he came to Yuzu, he came with Konoha shinobi to try and help their allies, only to arrive at a massacre. There were no survivors, nor discrimination on who was murdered. While searching for survivors, Jiraiya sifted through corpses of children in a daycare. That moment had always been imprinted in his mind. Jiraiya could not stay there and left immediately, the others following behind him. He had tried to return years later in an attempt to maybe give them a proper burial, but the atmosphere was suffocating, so he couldn't do it. Now, as he walked through the destroyed village, he didn't see any corpses. When he made it to the center, he found a massive pile of ash and scorched ground. At first, he was upset because he thought that Naruto just burned his kin's corpses, but looking at the edge of the scorched zone, he found Iwa hit I8. So he burned the corpses of the enemy shinobi. How Uzumaki of him. Chuckling at his own joke, Jiraiya went to look around to see if Naruto was still there. They landed in another forested area. Follow me. Naruto was right behind her as she ran through the woods at a fast pace. She led him at a seemingly random pattern until they reached a wall. There was a big crack on it and Ayaka trotted right in without fear. Naruto hesitated a moment but ultimately followed. He didn't know what to expect on the other side, but it definitely wasn't what he saw. It was a massive cavern with a ceiling open to show the sky. One side of walls was lowered to show the sunset properly. There were lots of little hills with small openings which had wolves entering and leaving, and they surrounded one mountain with a large entrance. Naruto could see 3 big wolves from his position. Are they who I need to meet? He pointed at the big wolves. Yes. Let's not keep them waiting. Ayaka urged. There was a massive waterfall at the taller side of the cave that had streams flowing through the whole cavern like veins. Naruto watched as little pups played in the water under the watchful eyes of their parents. There was an area where it looked like 2 wolves were fighting and had other wolves watching. They are training one-on-one battles today. Ayaka explained. Naruto could sense the curious looks as he trekked through the cavern. He was the only human in a place filled with wolves of different colors. It didn't take much longer for them to reach the big wolves. The 3 wolves watched him walk in with calculating eyes. One was black, one was white, and the third was gray. So this is who signed the contract. Naruto Uzumaki. You don't look like an Uzumaki. The white wolf spoke. Her voice feminine. Naruto bowed slightly before speaking. My mother is Kushina Uzumaki, the heiress of the Uzumaki clan, and I was recently able to return to my homeland. I have the Magatama necklace, ring and bracelet to prove that I'm the new clan head. The wolves all looked closely as Naruto showed them the jewelry. They all nodded and he sat on the ground. When he did, a small pup ran up to him and started sniffing and nibbling his clothes. So it seems. We are the small council of the wolves. My name is Kajiru. This is Ichiru and Yashiro beside me. If you hadn't noticed, we're triplets. I'd wager that you don't know of the alliance with the Uzumaki clan had with us wolves. The black wolf spoke. His voice masculine. Is it like how the toads are allied with Konoha? Naruto asked. Yes. Our alliance has dated back to before the East and the West were separated. Is it correct to assume you know of the West? Yeah, I saw a map in the clan head office and I made my voyage there. Once I made camp I signed and summoned Ayaka-chan. Naruto explained. He was now holding the excited pup and petting it. You've ventured into the war zone. You truly are an Uzumaki. It seems we'll be able to rejoin the battlefield again. Yashiro spoke up, their voice androgynous. They seemed excited at the prospect of a battle. Ichiru was about to speak up but was interrupted by the pup in Naruto's arms. Hey. Were you a sage before? Yeah. Naruto answered, a bit concerned. Cool. Then the pup went back to sniffing. I'm sure you know this already, but before we fully accept you as our summoner, you have passed our test. We will not have a weak summoner, Uzumaki or not. Ichiru spoke as if she wasn't interrupted, making Naruto more concerned. Yes. Kajiru exclaimed excitedly. Your test will be. You versus everyone. The pup shouted, excitedly. Now Naruto was confused. What do you mean? We go to the pit. You stand in the center, no weapons, no jutsu, just you and your fists. You will be surrounded and attacked by our clan for an unspecified amount of time. If you want our respect, then you will remain standing at the end. Then you'll be removed from the realm without us healing your wounds. If you survive, we'll acknowledge you as our superior. Yashiro spoke. Naruto blinked, then a grin slowly grew on his face. Let's do it. I'll beat everyone. In a puff of smoke, a battered and bleeding Naruto appeared in the middle of his small camp. As he laid on the ground, he took notice of the rising sun and smiled to himself. I did it. He muttered, not noticing a figure approaching his camp as he fell unconscious. Oh goodness. Is he dead? Naruto awoke tucked in a bed. He sat up and saw bandages covering his body. Looking around, he found himself in a shed-like dwelling. There was the bed he was laying on, a table with 2 chairs, a desk, and a dresser. He looked out all of the windows and saw nothing but forest trees. He removed his bandages and found that most the cuts healed completely, but some of them left scars. Odd. He looked to the side of the desk and saw all of his belongings there. He noticed that his jewelry stayed on. He put on his clothes and stepped out the home and immediately bumped into an old woman. She wore a yellow kimono that had red flowers on it. Her skin was mostly smooth, the crow's feet in her eyes, and the mostly gray blonde hair gave away her elderly status. Oh my. You're already up, young man? She asked startled. Yeah, I healed quickly. Are you the one who bandaged me? Naruto asked. Yes, that was me. I thought you'd be unconscious for a while longer with how much damage that was on your body. She directed him back inside. Thank you for your kindness, Bachan. He bowed low, she tittered and waved him off. None of that, young man. You needed help, so I helped you. Sit. I'll bring you something to eat. Naruto sat back down as she left and came back with a plate filled with fish and some fruit and a bowl of rice. Eat up, young man. He gave his thanks and dug into the food with gusto. Thanks, Bachan. This is really good. Of course, young man. What is your name? I am Yasaka. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, head of the Uzumaki clan, a clan that I am the only member of for now. I came here for a new life away from the discrimination I faced in my old home. You Uzumaki? Oh, dear. What happened to your clan? I thought they were the strongest. And I don't think this country is a place where you'd be able to raise a proper family. Yasaka seemed to be in shock. Between bites of his meal, Naruto told her of his clan's demise. Why wouldn't I be able to raise a family here? Don't tell me the centuries-old war is still going on. Yasaka sighed. It unfortunately is. This country, you see, is divided into 3 and is ruled by 3 brothers. Cao Wei, Shu Han, and Sun Wu. The immortal demigods. Naruto raised an unimpressed brow. Why are they called that? Seems incredibly arrogant. Yasaka sighed again. This country was once whole, with a king running the entire place. The king fell in love with a shrine maiden and married her. She later revealed herself to be a goddess. She gave birth to 3 boys, triplets. They were raised with love and affection, but they all had a darkness in their souls. Their father refused to acknowledge which boy was the oldest, choosing to have his successor be the man who he feels follows the proper ideals. Unfortunately, when they all grew in both power and knowledge, they discreetly poisoned their father and set a trap for the goddess to be sealed. Naruto was enthralled with the story. Well, what happened next, Bachan? The brothers succeeded to poison their father, but only managed to seal the goddess's power while she fled, completely ill-prepared for an attack from her sons. They infused the goddess's godly essence into 3 weapons. A staff, and a Liu Xing Chui, meteor hammer. Once these weapons of equal power fell into the hands of the brothers, they immediately turned on each other. Their fight began the war. They split the country into 3 factions in their everlasting war. Soldiers dying needless deaths, nobles kissing up to their rulers to stay in luxury, while each citizen is treated like slaves. The remaining clans were either forced to remain in service or has gone into hiding. You asked why they are called the immortal demigods. It's because they kill any sons their vast number of concubines and slaves give birth to, drain the baby's blood, and use that blood in a ritual to remain young. Naruto looked a mix of apoplectic and horrified at this. His fist kept clenching and unclenching, his fury barely being held in check. Tell me, Uzumaki-san, do you have a dream? Something that drives you? A reason for living, besides just to live? Yasaka asked. Naruto thought for a moment at this. Besides marrying my Haim, no, not really. Can I tell you mine? Yasaka asked lowly. At Naruto's nod, she continued. My dream, a fool's errand really, is to see this war-torn country reunited. To put down those monsters in human flesh that have ruined this country. I even made moves to accomplish this goal. In that desk drawer is a folded map of this entire country with detailed places where the clans are currently residing, where all the towns are, and where the home of each brother is. In another drawer is papers detailing each clan and what their values are. Naruto had already had the map opened on the desk and was glancing through the clan papers. Just how long did it take you to do all of this, Bachan? Decades. She released a hollow chuckle. Decades of my life wasted gathering all of this information, only to grow too old to do anything about it. Then I'll be inheriting this dream of yours. Isaka blinked. What? Naruto turned to her with a grin. I said, I'll be inheriting this dream of yours. I'll bring this country back together. I'll kill those monsters that brought this place down. Now Yusaka was gaping, tears pooling at the corners of her eyes. Maybe it isn't a fool's errand after all. She returned his smile with her own. Naruto reverse summoned himself to the land of the wolf summons. Without hesitation or fear, he walked straight through the den all the way up to the small council. I've returned. So we see. Well done, Naruto-sama. You are now officially the new summoner of the wolves, though you still have to meet the boss. Yashiro spoke. Naruto chuckled. But I've already met them, haven't I? The wolves seemed to look impressed and amused as another wolf grew behind them. Naruto really had to crane his neck to see the massive black beast. It was almost as big as Kurama. How did you know? A gruff yet still feminine voice asked. You interrupted the council twice and they ignored it completely without scolding you. Naruto answered truthfully. The massive wolf huffed. Something so small gave me away. That's annoying. Anyways, my name is Hana and I am the boss summons of the wolf clan. Nice to formally meet you, Hana. Now I'll be needing the help of quite a bit of your stealthiest wolves. Naruto stated. Of course. For what reason? To prepare for war. Naruto was sure if wolves could smile, these wolves would be grinning. So this is Jiang Wei. The figure read as he walked through in the morning. He wore a black mask that covers half his face and is connected to his shirt, a gray flak jacket and black pants. Most of this goes unseen as he wears a tattered black hooded poncho over it. The hood is raised, obscuring his head completely, and he wears a conical hat to top it all off. Naruto made his way through the town. He looked around in sadness and anger at the state it was in. All the homes were in shabby conditions and the people looked like skeletons. They hobbled around, some too weak to properly move. It seemed most of the people here were men, and maybe it's because his girlfriend is a goddess in his eyes, the women that were there weren't the conventional beauty. Most of them held signs that were basically advertisements. Sexual acts for something to eat. The sight truly angered him and reminded him of Wave Village when Geto was control. The sight of all those hungry people left a deep mark in Naruto's heart. By then, Naruto knew that things stored in a storage scroll remained in a stasis indefinitely. Meaning if hot food were to be sealed, then it would stay hot and fresh, no matter how long it was sealed. When Team 7 returned to Konoha after Wave, a hinged Naruto spent most of his free time studying at the library on what to feed a malnourished person. Then, Naruto would go to the hospital and speak to doctors on the best ways to start healing a malnourished person. After writing down all he learned, he spent the rest of his time stealing from food stalls all over the village. He continuously stockpiled on sealing scrolls filled to the brim with fruits, vegetables, and dairy products. When he was with the monks, they allowed him to take a lot of their protein pills and calorie pills that they made themselves to feed starving people that find their way to the temple. Naruto went to the center of the town and started his setup under the curious and wary gaze of the citizens. Oten. Dirixum. 3 big earth spikes rose from the ground and connected to each other. He made a clone that hopped to the top and tied a rope where the spikes connected. He then unsealed a large cauldron with a handle. He tossed it up to the clone who tied the end of the rope to the handle, then lowered it and dispelled. The pot hung at a proper height for him to reach in and out comfortably. He unsealed a jug of water. The inside of the jug had expansion seals all over the inside, so it seemed that the water was unending as he filled the cauldron. Oten. Shinkaku. Using a small amount of chakra, he made a small pit in the ground under the pot. He unsealed some random sticks he picked up and tossed them into the pit. Without hand signs, he spat out a small fireball and watched as the flames grew. He stood like a statue, watching as the chakra-fueled fire made the water boil faster. As the water boiled, he added some of the monk's pills into the pot after he crushed them. Then he pulled out vegetables one by one, chopped them with a kunai, and added them to the pot. After a while, the smell of the stew attracted the attention of everyone in the vicinity. 3 clones appeared. One stood by Naruto with a scroll filled with bowls. The other stood a bit away with one having a scroll with cups, while the third held the water jug. It didn't take long for the people to make a long line behind Naruto. As a team, Naruto filled a bowl with the stew and the clone hands it to the person in line. Then the person goes to get a drink from the other clones. Naruto made several other clones to go through the town to get the people who didn't get a share, and some clones stayed around to make tables and chairs using earth. It took a couple hours to get everyone fed, but Naruto didn't waver. Once everyone was done, he sat down with a couple of the older-looking citizens for information. Naruto was pissed. He met with the head of one of the samurai clans, and the man refused to even listen to what Naruto wanted to propose. He spent the entire time belittling him and his goals. So now Naruto is walking towards the palace of Sunwoo. He easily snuck his way in, and seeing the poor state of the people further infuriated him, especially with the palace made out of pure gold looming over all of them. He walked to the palace gates and only slowed enough to kick the giant gates clean off their hinges. He was immediately swarmed by the shinobi and samurai guards. He moved and caught one shinobi's arm and twisted it, so he stabbed himself before he grabbed the corpse and threw it into another, before he twisted and grabbed samurai's neck and snapped it. He then bent backwards and broke another's arm before taking the samurai's sword and stabbed him through the heart and threw it into another, before he threw a set of knives into 10 of the guards, killing them. Naruto channeled chakra into his bracelet and his naginata appeared. He fiercely spun it around and decapitated 3 guards and sliced down on another's head. Naruto then pulled his arm back and threw the naginata through several guards. Naruto strolled up the palace stairs and entered casually while his naginata went back into its bracelet form. His eyes narrowed as he sensed more guards charging towards his location. Naruto ran at the group, summoning his katana. He leaped over the first guard and cut the second that jumped to meet him in half before he landed and spun cutting through 3. He ducked a swing before cutting up another, spun, and then ran another through before he blocked a strike and cut another's throat. Naruto then turned and cut another in their head before twisting and delivered a slash to another's chest before bisecting another. Naruto then slammed his blade point first into a samurai's sword, making the sword shatter and the hilt to slam into the guard's chest, killing them before he twisted and slammed the hilt of his blade into a shinobi's face, caving it in, before he jumped and impaled another shinobi that jumped at him and brought him down on a samurai, impaling them both. He took his blade and flung the top corpse into another samurai and heard the crack of necks, meaning they were both dead before Naruto spun and cut down another that came at him. After slaughtering his way through so many guards, they finally got the hint and were giving him a very wide berth as he continued to casually stroll through the palace towards where he sensed the biggest energy. Picking the grand doors open, he startled everyone present except for the bastard he was here for. Kurama. I'm gonna need some backup for this fight. Naruto thought as he glared at the slowly rising Shuwu. I'm ready, Kit. Shuwu. I am Naruto Uzumaki and I challenge you for your throne. Naruto walked into the hidden clan compound of the Busujima samurai clan. He only wore his pants and sandals, so his torso was completely exposed. His body was riddled with bruises, slashes, and dried blood, but his face was still set in a hard gaze, and his steps showed strength. No one dared stop his trek to the clan head's home. A guard pointed a trembling hand towards the office, and Naruto entered without hesitation. An imposing man with dark purple hair sat behind his desk, while a young woman stood beside him in a dark kimono. Sitting on a chair before the desk was an old man who was currently frowning. He wore a white overcoat, a tan kimono top, and a black hakama. HMPH. I see you've returned, boy. And heavily injured at that. Have you come to admit your Oda Busujima's further comments got stuck in his throat when Naruto opened a storage scroll and dropped a severed head onto the clan head's desk. The room's occupants could only stare in absolute shock at what they were seeing. The possibility of what they were seeing was warring with the grim lives they were forced to live. It was the old man who first found his voice. This was Munenori Manu, a shinobi turned samurai that headed the Manu shinobi clan. Is that who I believe it is? Yes. This is the severed head of Shuwu. I fought him in full view of the nobles and killed him. I now rule a third of this country. Do you still think me a foolish youth, Busujima Dono, or are you ready to follow me in unifying this country? Naruto spoke, his voice held a new type of strength. That fight was truly something new for him. He was woefully ill-prepared for the ferocity and power he faced, but he just managed to eke out a victory. He sent wolves across his new territory to relay his position as the newest warlord. As clan head of the Busujima clan, I apologize for my derisive behavior and insulting words. Please make use of my healers and rest before we can begin to discuss war plans. Oda stood and bowed. Siko, escort our new lord to the healers. Hi, Otu-sama. Naruto resealed the head and made his way out the office. Having snatched another city away from the last brother, Kawaii, Naruto was in a war tent with his lieutenants discussing their next moves. Recently, Kawaii abandoned another city voluntarily, but that wasn't too surprising to Naruto. It was the best way for Kawaii to preserve his dwindling numbers. He was losing the war now, and he was preparing, but not to attack. He was readying his forces for defense, and if Naruto wanted to bring the war to an end, he had little choice but to oblige, even if it was the last thing he wished to do. With his enemy holed up in Yanra and the entire city under a firm lockdown, he could find no way to breach the border without a full frontal assault that would cost too many lives. Naruto sat deep in thought while his lieutenants continued to discuss. He spun a globe as his thoughts drifted. This unnamed land was vastly bigger than the map on Yuzu showed. There were so many different cities, most filled those suffering under corrupt leadership. The war changed him. There were many underhanded tactics that he was forced to undertake in order to get the safest results. There were several nobles who only paid him lip service while they planned to betray him, so he had them killed when he was far from their location. While the beatings and the sabotage attempts were bad for him in Konoha, he bore witness to the true lows of human nature. One noble had a pleroma. There was several women that had their limbs removed but were kept alive for entertainment. The only right thing for him to do was give those poor souls a mercy killing. It was the fact that a couple of them were only children was what truly changed him. As he pondered on these things, an idea struck him. It hit him hard enough that he flinched, and the others noticed. "Boss?" one asked. "The tunnel," he said. "Are you serious?" Another asked, quick on the uptake. "Yes," he said plainly as he rose to look at the map. "It's so stupid that no one will expect it. A tunnel right into the center of the city. We'll end the war there." He fine-tuned his idea the more he spoke, and he could tell his lieutenants were beginning to see his vision. Infiltration was a resounding success as Naruto's forces flooded Yanra, completely taking the unprepared soldiers by surprise. Naruto strode towards the massive castle in a casual gait to preserve as much strength as possible for his upcoming fight. He sidestepped one soldier and jabbed his throat, crushing it. As the man fell to his knees trying to breathe, Naruto twisted around another, grabbing and snapping their neck as he did so. The last he merely sidestepped and launched a palm thrust to his nose, driving it into his brain. Naruto did this in one fluid motion as he never broke stride towards the castle, staring at it intently. Soldiers all rushed him at once, hoping to overwhelm him with numbers. He caught one enemy by their wrist and snapped it before taking the sword that dropped. Before the man could try anything, Naruto slit his throat before then parrying another attack and running the attacker through. He then twisted and slashed another across the chest before then stabbing behind him into another attacker right in the chest. He let go of the sword to take a step forward and dodged another attack before grabbing the weapon, a battle axe, from the opponent and slammed the head into their chest before pushing them over lightly. Breaking the shaft, Naruto ducked and swung, smashing it against another attacker's head before then lashing out with a mule kick that sent the target flying. Wei himself appeared and the man approached in only a pair of pants and sandals, an enraged expression on his face. "Approach me if you dare, Uzumaki. It will be your last action." Naruto's stride didn't even falter as he too removed his sage cloak and top. "Wei. I am Naruto Uzumaki and I challenge you for your throne." Their fists met with a deafening bang. Kao threw a fast left jab only for Naruto to parry his strike to the side and counter with a jab of his own. Naruto aimed for his throat, attacking with crippling and deadly strikes right from the beginning. However, Kao simply tapped Naruto's arm away, making him miss the target and swing past Kao's head safely. As they both countered each other like mirrors, they found themselves in a stalemate. Both combatants locked with each other, struggling to overpower their adversary. The ground rumbled and cracked as their chakra saturated the air, a heavy pressure quickly descending. With them both landing a punch, they were both blasted backwards. They stumbled through the ground until they regained their footing and once more made a beeline towards their opponent. Moments before their fists met once more, Naruto vanished in a yellow flash. Kao turned and quickly sidestepped as Naruto appeared behind him with a blue sphere in his hand. Kao snatched Naruto's wrist, driving the Rasengan away from his body, and retaliated with a right cross. Naruto tilted his head to the side, Kao's fist grazing his cheek. Their battle raged on for hours, with their soldiers as spectators. The citizens were safely evacuated, which was to their benefit due to the sheer destruction both combatants caused. Neither even considered using weapons. The end of the war was ended by Naruto using a jutsu he created. Kazakiri. A fist with cutting wind swirling around it sliced cleanly through the last brother's chest. He didn't even allow Wei the dignity of last words. He just used a fire jutsu to rapidly turn the body to ash. The victory roar he heard nearly staggered him. He forgot about his audience, so focused he was in his battle. They cheered for his victory and the decisive end to the war. The reconstruction of each country took only a year. The palaces of pure gold were dismantled and the soldiers were properly compensated for their service. Relief and aid were given to the poorest cities and banks were built to have the economy flowing as it should. Naruto himself had an army of clones to delegate and do paperwork. He spent that first year in the military academy under a henge. He wanted to know exactly how his soldiers lived. He only told those in charge of certain branches about his actions so that when he disappeared, it could be explained away that he was a spy they found. The next year after the academy, he floated through all the different branches of government to build his experience. The last year was spent in the intelligence department. The things he learned there was eye-opening. He would be the first to admit that he wasn't a subtle person, but the training he underwent in intelligence gathering gave him a new appreciation for the art. It was by the end of that third year that the empire was fully operational and secure. As thanks to the one being who was by his side his entire life, he named the nation the Kurama Empire. With his empire secure, he decided to spread his spy network into the elemental nations. Before that, however, he made an alliance with Spring Country and acquired blueprints for trains and railway stations. With the schematics and the aid of architects, he had railroads built that connected throughout the entire empire. It was like veins that pumped through each city and helped the people feel more connected. Naruto stood in front of a torii gate with a sense of accomplishment. This was the entrance to the Uzumaki temple. He went to the tallest mountain in a range and dug into it. He finally took out his kin and gave them proper burials inside the mountain. While he had clones dig the graves, he personally laid the skeletons in their resting places. With that done, he built a pillar in the center and placed the shrine masks onto it. The second he placed the final mask in place, he felt something shift into place. He got to his knees and lowered himself in a full dogiza, his emotions running rampant. He fully sobbed while in dogiza, once again saddened by the loss of so many of his family, but glad that he was able to give them the proper burials they deserved. He made plenty of holes inside the mountain to act as ventilation, but the breeze that picked up wasn't natural. That assumption was proven correct when he sensed a lot of gratitude being directed towards him. Then he heard a multitude of voices in the wind saying one thing before the breeze died down. "Thank you." He stood, cleaned his face, then sent clones to retrieve his clan members. It turns out, several of his clan members had stayed behind before the sage separated the continents. They remained in hiding, but as soon as it was known that he was leading the rebellion against the immortal demigods, they flocked to him in droves. He had just over 100 kin, and more than half were trained shinobi, while the others were too young or too old, by Uzumaki standards. They came within minutes and one of them cried just as hard as he did when they saw his finished work. They showered him in gratitude before he managed to make his escape. Isaka hummed to herself while preparing a simple dish. It's been a while since she had seen the young man who brought her hope when she lost it forever ago. She thought of him often in the last couple years, but she was too scared to leave her small home. A knock on her door jolted her out of reverie. She never got visitors. She slowly moved towards the door, her heart pounding wildly in her chest. It could have been Naruto, but it also could have been someone sent to end her. Armed with a skillet, she inched her to the door that was being knocked on again. She reached with a trembling hand to open the door and yanked it hard, her skillet raised to swing, but it slipped out her hand when she saw it was Naruto. "Hey, Bachan. I've fulfilled your dream." She couldn't speak. She could barely breathe. The news that was just casually given to her was just so jarring and inconceivable that it refused to make sense. "Why you what?" With his vulpine grin, he repeated his statement. "I've fulfilled your dream and united this war-torn country. You're looking at the emperor of the Kurama Empire." She fainted. Ah, shit. She awoke in her bed, a bit disoriented, but quickly shook it off with Naruto appearing in her line of sight. "You doing alright, Bachan?" Before she could answer, she felt a very strong pull towards her desk. She sat up and got out of bed, practically pushing Naruto aside. In almost a trance, she made her way to the desk and found the 3 weapons of the brothers sitting innocently. Hovering her hands over them, she inhaled deeply, and the golden luster of the weapons dimmed as she absorbed their essence. Her youth slowly returned the more she absorbed, and by the time she finished, the weapons crumbled as if they aged centuries in seconds. She released the breath she was holding and turned at the smiling young man who just returned her divinity. "Thank you, Naruto-kun. Thank you so much for what you've done. How did you know?" "I didn't. I guessed." He shrugged. "You guessed?" she asked incredulously. "Yup. A complete and total assumption. Glad it worked out." She could only laugh at the ridiculousness of it all. What if Naruto is an alpha werewolf in the West End here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.